Namaste. It's Julie here of Journey to Balance. Some of you may know me as Jaya. I wanted to give you some background of what brought me here. I'd worked in the corporate world at the same company for about 20 years, and as I climbed the corporate ladder, I was putting in more and more hours. A typical day for me would be my alarm going off at 4:30, opening my eyes and immediately checking my phone for emails. I'd get out of bed and ready for work, leave for work at around 5:30, and on my 2-hour drive to work, I'd answer emails, make notes for meetings, or make phone calls. Yes, all while I was driving. I was an amazing multitasker. I would be to work by 7 o'clock and work through my lunch or eat at my desk while I worked. I would end up staying until 6 to miss the traffic home and get home by 7:30 or 8 if I didn't have a work function to attend. I'd have something to eat and then go to bed around 8:30 or 9. And the last thing I'd do before closing my eyes would be check my emails. I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to do a good job and to prove I could do the job. I'd often take work on vacation, or at the very least check my emails in case anyone needed me, and so there weren't so many when I got back. I'd go to work sick because I'd feel guilty staying home, or if I stayed home, I would just work from home. There was so much I felt I needed to do, and I couldn't afford to be away. Plus, people were depending on me. Until one day I'd had a fever for 3 days and nothing was going, I wasn't going to meet the deadline, and I felt so guilty and felt like I was letting everyone down. But I finally decided I needed to look after myself. Later that night, I started talking to my mom about what was happening, all the things that were going wrong on the project. And the more frustrated I got, the louder I got. And when all of a sudden I started screaming at the top of my lungs, like I had no control. I remember feeling like I was outside of myself watching the screaming, but having absolutely no control over it. When the screaming stopped, I collapsed in a chair, completely exhausted, both mentally and physically. For the next 2 weeks, it took all I had to get from the couch to my bedroom. And it would be physically exhausting. I'd be out of breath by the time I got there. I couldn't talk. I'd communicate by email or text. My senses were heightened, and even the little things would irritate me. I could only do one thing at a time. I had no control about what I was going to do or what I was going to say. I'd cry for no reason. I felt like my world was crashing in. I slept a lot, but when I was awake, I was working. I finally had time to work on those procedures that I'd been wanting to do. Plus, if I wasn't working, my mind would start racing and I'd have all these negative thoughts. So once I was able to get down the stairs, my dad took me to the doctor. He said, "You have had a nervous breakdown and you have general anxiety disorder." I had no idea what that was. And at that time, I couldn't even comprehend that there was anything wrong with me at all. I remember emailing my boss saying, "So my doctor said I had a nervous breakdown. So I'll just continue to work from home until I can physically drive into the office. I'm sure it'll be just a week or two." Later that day, I got a call from Human Resources who said, "You need to take some time off." I told her I was fine. I was still able to work. I just couldn't talk or drive. She told me I'd never taken a sick day, and I had 45 days banked up. Take some time off. I asked her, "What am I supposed to do?" She said, "Go spend time with your nieces and nephews or read a book." I told her I couldn't spend time with my nieces and nephews because I wasn't sure what I was going to do, and I didn't want to hurt them. Plus, I never knew when I would start crying, and I didn't want to scare them. I couldn't read a book because my sight was blurry, and I couldn't focus on the words. She told me to finish up what I was working on and that they'd be removing my access by the end of the week. So the next 2 weeks, I watched a lot of movies, all to keep my mind busy. Plus, there wasn't anything else physically or mentally that I could do. I started seeing a psychologist, which was the best decision I made, and really think that everyone would benefit from one. It's nice to have an independent person to talk to who can help you see things from a different perspective and give you the tools to help work through those things. About 3 months later, I was able to walk a little further and started driving short distances. I started back to yoga twice a week and doing more meditation. See, what happened was while I was working, I was doing so much and not taking time for myself to recharge. I was constantly putting myself down and being hard on myself. I had the disease to please and had a hard time saying no. I was worried about what other people thought of me, and I was worried about letting people down. I found I was declining invitations out with friends because I had to work. I learned so much through my recovery that I knew I wanted to share what I learned with others. So I was off for 7 months before returning to work. And then 6 months after returning, I was let go. I took some time to decide what I really wanted to do, and a trip to India inspired me to teach yoga and meditation. I started my own business called Journey to Balance in Fort Erie. If you're interested in learning the ways that I used along my journey to balance, click the subscribe button below. And remember, love always and enjoy the journey. Namaste.